let's do a live reaction to the patch. Let's do it that way. So everybody, this is a beta patch that is currently being tested. I should be putting this on YouTube while it's still being tested, hopefully. I'm gonna very slowly scroll through the bug fixes here. You can access this on Steam, by the way, by just right-clicking the Versus Edition and selecting in the betas the public test build. I'm not going to read the bug fixes, but I am going to read the balance changes and give my detailed thoughts and predictions on that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Almost all of this is single-player campaign related. There's a lot of small things where, you know, dialogues get cut off and some items get messed up. And there's one in the early game where you could unequip the items of a dude that you were gonna fight. So, you know, some pretty important fixes here. Missing voice lines, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we're not gonna read all these, but I'm scrolling slowly enough that you guys on YouTube can just pause and go through it at your own pace. I will also be posting this paste bin link in the YouTube description. As you can see, there is seriously a lot going on here. Like, seriously, it's still going. Oh my god. There is a lot here. And yeah, there we go. Miscellaneous changes. This is where we start the reactions. So ranked and unranked queues have been consolidated in favor of shorter all-around queue times. Now, what this actually means is that if you go to the versus area of the game, where I am Wood League on the public test build, because we were testing if league boundaries are still the same, and they appear to be. So what you got here, there is now only ranked. You do not have unranked. And what this should mean is that all the people that are in unranked will now be playing with the people that are in ranked, which should reduce the queue times. Building a unit UI now shows additional information such as the player name. Now this is extremely useful, and I will load up in the background here just to show you guys how that looks. So right here we've got a little bit of an interface for our hero. We will quickly train a Wolfguard commander. Doesn't really matter what hero it is, but the 0 here means our current experience in the progression of this level. You guys got it? And 300 is the experience required for the next level. So I no longer have to hover over here, which is freaking fantastic. This is huge. And if the Wolfguard commander will quickly go down there to take on some creeps, we will be able to see her experience level grow. And it will show the exact experience that your hover would say. However, the next experience levels are even better. So these would remain 0 at every level up. So we'll quickly do this, and then we'll go back to the main. This is 14, so we'll do it like this. You can see it's raising itself 200 out of 300, and as we kill this cutthroat archer, it will finalize itself. There we go. Production buildings now show additional queued resource production assignments for which resources have been delivered already. Now this, I'm not sure what it means, I'll be completely honest. I also haven't found a significant change, so can't comment just yet. We will figure this out. Removed end session option in pause menu. What that means is that if you're spectating a game or if you're playing a team game, you will not be booted. Because end session actually means destroy the lobby. So not the host not having that anymore means that you actually have to finish playing the game, and you know, they don't just destroy the lobby while the game is still running, which is freaking great. It saves tournaments. Mwah. It's beautiful. So good. Skirmish lobbies with co-op enabled. Players can now add remove AIs in their own faction. A much requested thing, I'm sure. People just want to be able to comp stomp and do all sorts of variations of that. And you know, in this game you can actually co-op with your friends, share a faction, control it together, like Archon mode in StarCraft, but with more customization. So it's great. Internal improvements to network code. It remains to be seen what that exactly means. Not very specific change note, however. The balance patch is coming to console as well, absolutely. So there's some comments here from the devs for the balancing. Thank you for all your awesome feedback regarding SpellForce 3 Versus. With this patch, we are addressing some of the feedback provided during the last month, and we will monitor the feedback from the public test branch to potentially introduce more or revert some. We are also looking to somewhat increase the game speed while making some unusual options more attractive, either by directly buffing them or slightly nerfing the alternatives. Additionally, some changes aim to be more of a quality of life change and improve playability, such as the Warrior of the Depths time to hit. Last but not least, we are introducing some bigger changes, such as also giving trolls a worker health upgrade, and are looking to nerf some outstanding heroes without going overboard. Update, we have added a couple of changes to address the feedback and also reverted other changes from the previous patch iteration. Please let us know your feedback. So this is actually version 2 of this patch. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. Already you can tell that they added the troll worker upgrade, which previously didn't exist, which means your workers will be tankier. So that's some fantastic stuff. Trolls, while strong against worker harassment, as the game progressed and your heroes got stronger, you could certainly go in there and just nuke them, right? So the belling was always super important there. And, you know, the general approach of bringing down what's there in every game a little bit, and then significantly bringing up the stuff that you never see, I think that's just essential to keeping the game fresh. So anyway, there is no timeline for this. It happens when it happens, guys. I don't know. It doesn't say here. Let's go through the balance changes. Inferno Golem. Increased ability cooldown from 6 seconds to 12 seconds. So that's the neutral creep on the map. It triggers the ability very frequently, or it does on the live game right now. And here you will get a little bit more time to recharge your interrupting skills so that you can take this thing down a little bit easier without melting your whole army. I'm not sure if I love that change because it's challenging, but also it makes it not do the normal attack, which is kind of a waste of the animation, right? If it just does one attack and one ability, one attack, one ability, that looks kind of silly. So, understandable, you know? Advanced unit production buildings. Normalize all construction times to 40%, 40 seconds from 60 seconds. So this is like the Dark Temple. It's the heart of the forest. All of these advanced production buildings used to take so long to make, and hopefully this will encourage people to do stuff like getting out a handful of druids as the elves. We'll see where this goes exactly. Maybe it will also help encourage Dwarven Tier 2 play, where people would get golems or balloons. This would be a little bit of help towards that. Orc iron mines have increased production costs from 5 with 5 stone to 6 with 6 stone. So it's a pretty significant increase, as the orcs will be building a lot of these. And 2 of each, well, 2 total resources increased here is, you know, it's obviously a 20% increase to their cost. You're gonna make 9 plus of these, so they're gonna feel that. The hunter timing is gonna be delayed, and you'll have a little bit more time to prepare for it, and you know, hopefully reach your level 6s with your heroes if you can. And on the smaller maps, give you a little bit of time to do damage to the orcs. So yeah, very interesting there. We have been seeing a little bit of, you know, heavy orc play, but I wouldn't say they're particularly overpowered. On the big maps, they're certainly very strong. So, you know, watch this space. We'll see where it goes. Elven Forester has had its construction cost reduced from 20 stone to 10. Yeah, Foresters, I mean, they don't particularly provide that much value, right? Because wood in the super late game, I mean, okay. The elves largely need this for construction. They don't super need it for units, right? Only the ballista actually costs some wood for the elves. Can't think of anything else that does. So, yeah, this is only about buildings. The foresters don't give you much value. They're certainly not worth 20 stone. Very good change. Shrine of Thorns no longer requires stonecutter. And reduce construction costs from 20 stone to 10 stone. Now, this is important because you start with 10 stone, and you do not make a stonecutter early as the elves, which means you could technically sacrifice some early economy and put down a Shrine of Thorns. So that may be opening up some interesting plays. These provide a lot of population. So maybe this way you can lean into your Guardian rushes, which are addressed in the later parts of this patch. We'll get there. Okay, the Troll School buildings. Actually, that's a funny naming. I've never seen that in the game. I like it. Because it kind of is like a school. Increased health from 1200 to 2000. So that's pretty much in line with their cost. Generally, SpellForce buildings have 100 HP for 1 resource cost, and they cost 20 resources, so 10 stone, 10 wood. Makes perfect sense. They don't require workers, though. So, you know, I guess watch this space. Maybe they shouldn't be worth it. 1-to-1 with the resources there. Right. Moon Temple. Defense Song now increases resistances by 8%. Used to be 5. So, Moon Temples, we are not seeing much of that ever. So, any buffs to the Moon Temple are very welcome. And there's another. Faster resource production now increases production by 40%, which used to be 30. So, this used to just about break even, right? If you had a base full of farms, then this would be just about worth it. But now it should be quite worth it to make one of these. You'll basically be needing 3 or more farms, and then this is it's better to make this than another farm. Worker health upgrade, now 20 seconds for all races. If I only could remember the original research time. I can't, so rip, can't comment. Now catapult cost has been increased from 5 wood 5 iron to 7 wood and 6 iron. So the previous patch already increased the wood cost from 5 to 7, but now it's also gonna add another iron on it, which means that the catapults will be significantly less spammable. They are the most easily produced siege weapon of all, 100%. So I think this is a good change. The humans should have more army and, you know, support it with catapults. The catapults shouldn't be the army. Granted, it doesn't work very well when you only have catapults, right? But you could certainly use it as a secondary army and go and smack bases in the face. This nerfs the ability to do that. Champions damage has been reduced from 200 to 180. That's just a straight up nerf. Obviously, champions are very powerful. You can support them with flag bearers. And later in this patch, you can see the medic change. So they have been buffed. So you can also support them with medics to just make them a little bit better. But here comes the juicy part: the scouts. The scouts have increased health by 100. That's without upgrades. Upgraded health goes up by 50 as well, from 700 to 750. This is pretty big. Scouts are cheaper than infantrymen and significantly faster. Their damage is also going up by 5, both on the base and the upgraded level. So I think they might actually be an alternative here to the infantrymen. No joke, like running around, destroying some cheap resource buildings and getting out and doing it again could be a serious play. Medics are cheaper. I mean, nobody ever makes medics. I've not seen it in a competitive space ever. This is an important change. Let's see medics, please. Orcs, Pester, also a unit that we don't see much. We at least see more of them than medics, but that's not a compliment. It's barely usable in some absolute edge cases. Okay. Increased damage from 20 to 22. I remain unconvinced. This could probably be 25 and they'd be still pretty good. Ranged heroes might care a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Drummers have been buffed though, so maybe that will help. Increased movement speed from 40 to 48, so they'll be able to keep up with your melee gobos, the scoundrels. Decreased number of affected goblins from 24 to 18. Yeah, I mean, okay, you know, if you want to support a full blob of goblins, then make 3 of them instead of 2 of them. Big deal, you know. Fine. A little nerf then, but reduce the XP given on death from 30 to 20. They gave a ridiculous amount of health, like a tier 2 unit, or XP, like a tier 2 unit. They are a tier 1 unit, so now it's in line with that. Very good. Refinery, construction time reduced from 50 to 60 to 50. That's a good thing. The orcs don't have a whole lot of stuff to do with that, besides like the population upgrade, which is here. I think that was like 40 seconds. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Aqua Kazam in the chat right now will be able to correct me on this, but I believe that was 40 seconds or 45. So this should be a significant reduction there. The orcs do get population blocked on the smaller maps very easily, so that's a good change. Warg Rider increased health from 450 to 500. And I am pretty sure this is missing some damage changes. They have 35 attack, dude. They are buffed. War Troll increased siege resistance from 20 to 50. That's a very important part. Okay, you have catapults, you have basilisks. These guys will melt, unfortunately, especially if you can combine it with some resistance reduction, weakening, you name it. War Trolls were countered by siege, so they weren't a very reliable siege themselves, unless you could hit a timing where, for whatever reason, you are giga rich and the other guy doesn't have siege, right? It doesn't make any sense that the tier 3 melee unit should be hard countered by siege. I think even with this change, weakening induced siege attacks will be, or enhanced siege attacks will be still very good against War Trolls. Like, I don't think that they will hard counter them anymore, but I think they'll be still the counter. So let's see how Orc tier 3 plays out from here. I really hope to see these guys. They're super cool. Running by and smacking bases with 3 each is just such a hot play. Hope to see more of that. Guardians for the elves. Reduce base health from 650 to 600. Fantastic. The good old monkey boy rush, as Saylok likes to say, has been all over the place. It's all that elves do. Elves don't get played in tournaments because it's risky. A little bit of them may show up on occasion, but goodness, we need elves to go back to their tier 2 roots, and you know, do their macro plays, because spamming one unit is just no fun for anybody. It should be a strategy, but it shouldn't be the strategy. Damage value changed from 65 base in melee and 60 base range. So it used to be 70 on the live build for the base melee damage. So that was... No, sorry. It was already only 60, I think? What was it? What was it in the live build, guys? Was it 70? I believe it was. So there's a drop there in Guardian damage, I believe. And no, it was 70, but it was brought down to 65, I believe, because the health was increased and the resistance was increased. Yes, that's what happened. And now it's left as the same while the health drops and the ranged attack gets improved. Right, there we go. So you'll be able to more easily kill them. Anyways, moving on, the upgrade for melee will grant 100 extra health, and you get 10 extra range for range. Plus, they significantly increase your damages that you do. So that upgrade will now be worth considering for the elves, or at least worth testing. Who knows if it's actually worth it, but it's a start. I believe the health is currently bugged, so it shows up as a an armored perk with only 5% improvement. That is not good enough. It will be updated though, the dev said in the Discord. Pathfinder. Increase health from 450 to 550. Upgraded health from 750 to 800. So, you guys might have already seen the game where Levatus played Pathfinders in tier 2. And that's about to get a lot better. That's hot. That's very hot. Okay, we've got damage increase as well on them. 5 damage per attack increased on both base and upgraded versions. This should be legit. Their upgrade is pretty expensive, so I think it's totally worth it. And people will just have to either make towers to defend this or leave behind units. Ice Phoenix. Reduced food cost from 15 to 13. New cost 13 food and 4 lenya. Ice Phoenix are actually really good units. Kinda like game-ending units, but you need so many of them, and they're so expensive, and they train so slowly, and their focus regenerates so slowly that you will never see it in a real game. This might allow them to show up a little bit. They are so cost prohibitive, but such a cool unit if you can get their beam upgrade. I sometimes use them when I play against someone newer. I let them build up, and then I just fly over to their main with 30 of them and destroy it in 2 seconds. It's so funny. It's so funny. Maybe we will actually get to see it at some point one day. This is the first step to that, I think. Spectres. Reduce base health from 400 to 300. I mean, yeah, that's pretty important. There's a lot of melee heroes that cannot stand against the Spectre. They don't really have the reach to go after them. So the Spectre just slows them down by 15% for like an entire minute, and you just suffer and you can't do anything. One thing you can do though is leave your scout behind. It is a sacrifice because the Dark Elves get a free spider at the beginning, but it sort of helps counteract that. And with this change, you'll be able to shoo away the Spectre for good. They cannot stay there and take the scout damage that is now buffed across the board. Especially if your hero has some kind of mobility skill to reach them. But the upgrade will give them back their old health, so everything is as it was once you get the tier 2 upgrade. The Veil ability, which is also really good to combo with the basic slowing tagging thing. So I think this is totally okay. No worries. Twisted Ones. Increase supply cost from 4 to 5. Dark Elf armies in the late game get super big. I think a pretty important change to make here. But their base health is getting compensated for it from 800 to 900. So the early phases of Dark Elven tier 3 are going to get a little bit of a buff. But as you reach full population, and especially make many Twisted Ones, the Dark Elven army gets weaker, as half the resource cost from that is free. You just keep making harvesters from your with Spires of Souls, and they tank damage, they collect the souls for you. You just pay for the food, really, in practice. So that stays the same. Limited amount harvested at once to 15 for the harvesters. So that makes it so that you have to make multiple. I don't know if this is actually going to work. I haven't tested it, but hopefully it does. The tooltip still hasn't changed, so it still says it creates 10 projectiles, but that seems not right. We'll have to see what it actually means. But if it is, then, you know, people will at least have to invest into this a little bit more. Scion. Reduce bleeding duration from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. So this nerfs the Scion's damage, nerfs the unit overall, because they only cost Echo, and you can keep pumping out these balls of steel without any issue whatsoever. I think this is a very fair change, especially with their knockdown upgrade. They are so powerful. I've got nothing against this at all. Emissary of Nor. Summon ability, reduce cooldown from 6 to 3 seconds. Spawns one melee unit by default. Upgraded version has a 33% chance to also spawn a ranged summon. So the problem with this was that any units that are in a cooldown on their attack move ability will also be just moving forward as you attack move while they wait, which is not good because they'll just run into the enemy, and 6 seconds is a very long time, so they literally fly over the enemy army while trying to summon, so you'd have to constantly turn it off, and that's not very accessible at all. It requires a lot of micro and APM and babysitting, and it's just not fun to use for the casual audience. So I think it's even annoying for the pro players. So, you know, this just helps with their overall usability, especially on console. My goodness, that must be so annoying. Right, Berserkers. Reduced base damage from 200 to 112. Sounds significant, but here's the kicker. Now deals 60 bonus damage to creatures. So this is super significant still. Puts them in line with the champions, but no splash damage, yet they still maintain their Warcry ability. That's against units, but against buildings, they'll be requiring golem assistance. This is not good enough to siege. Limited the amount of allies hit by the Berserker Warcry to 5. They used to be able to hit like a pretty large chunk of the army. So this is actually a pretty hefty nerf and keeps the dwarves in check. You'll have to probably actually use the Warhorn to help initiate fights. Combat balloon range increased from 170 to 180, and I believe even with this, they will still have less range than a twisted one, which is wild, but okay. Let's see how they do. Population upgrade now costs 10 wood, 10 stone, and 15 food. I don't remember the old cost. I assume this helps. I don't know. I assume this is a reduction, because the orcs had a change as well. Anyway, more rider. Health increased from 450 to 500. Upgraded health from 650 to 700. A pretty hefty change, but you know, they're all about their ability, right? So a little bit of survivability for these guys, but what they're really about is stomping on the ground and destroying a pack of resource buildings. If you can surround an entire base, then you might be able to destroy the buildings around that base. So I think they're already pretty decent, but a little help to put them in line with the other scouts doesn't hurt. Same for the damage, 25 to 35 and 40 to 45 on the upgrade. You don't really use these guys to do attacks besides the slow. So we'll see how that goes. They're all about that ability though. Fire golems reduce charcoal cost from 15 to 12. New cost 5 iron, 12 charcoal. This should be very affordable. So the fire golems, you know, they got nerfed many times, but now that they are more affordable, you should be able to actually pump out a few of them, and you know, maybe you just pump out one more, and you're going to be able to sort of do what you used to be able to do. Unfortunately, this doesn't help much with the full population timings of dwarves where they swim in charcoal, but this should help in the tier 2 mid game where you struggle to afford pretty much anything except you know, your cheapest units. Mixing in some fire golems in the mid game should help a lot, especially when you have a ton of sentries so that the heroes can't easily access the golems. I think this should be pretty good. Combine that with some earth shapers. This is sounding solid to me. Okay, troll workers now also have a health upgrade available in the capital. Compensation for now remove extra pierce resistance. Yes, so the trolls workers used to have extra pierce resistance compared to normal workers, which was weird. But now they have the health upgrade available, so very fair, I believe. I'd rather they invest into their benefits than just get them. Skull crushers. Damage reduced from 140 to 130. So this nerfs the timing attack of the Skull Crushers. Unfortunately, it nerfs them a little bit in the later game, but there are some compensation changes here. So Skull Crushers should be a transitional unit, not something you take into late. Just a timing attack unit, really. Warbringer. Production cost adjusted from 20 stone, 20 scrap, 20 offerings to 10 stone, 10 wood, 20 scrap, 20 offerings. So they are gonna cost a little bit of every resource now, except food obviously, because the Smasher does. Makes it a little bit easier to afford these guys. Maybe we'll see more Warbringers, they're super cool. I'd love to. Bone Hexers, increased leech damage back from 10 to 20. Reduce magic damage from 130 to 125. So yeah, they'll be able to survive better due to the increased leech. Bear in mind they can attack 3 targets, so this is actually 60 total leech per attack rather than 30, so that's a very big increase actually. And the magic damage is going to suffer a little bit as a result. Spike Flingers reduce damage from 100 to 90, but increase the attack speed from 0.25 to 0.33. So there's a bit of a DPS increase in here, but not on you know, a single volley. So if you react quick, you can avoid being punished too hard. Ironbeak Corpse Seeker fixed a bug that would not apply effects in area of effect. Ironbeak Corpse Seekers actually didn't work. Their ability only used to affect one enemy or one friendly. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some Ironbeak Corpse Seekers. They're mostly about the bleed effect, I think, as area denial tools. maybe we'll get to see some of that. I think it's very micro intensive, and I think it's a very strange tech path, but they're super cheap, so maybe. And they are using an infinite resource to be created. Adjusted amount of souls drop for all units. So all the trolls used to actually only provide 1 soul. Imagine that. So the Smasher, the Thrower now will give 2. Skull Crushers, Spikebringers, Flesh Eaters 3. Warbreakers, Bone Hackers 4. And Warbringers 5. This is more or less in line with what you expect from the other races as well. So I think a good change, but you gotta keep an eye on Dark Elf performance against trolls, because in the late game, I would say Dark Elves are favored once they have, you know, their ultimate armies. Helmets have been reduced in cost from 3k to 2k. They don't provide that great of an effect with their regeneration, so I actually really love to see the regeneration increase, but the cost changes also not bad for now. I do think they need a lot more though. Melee heroes decreased health by 100, all factions. So melee heroes have 10 more resists than ranged heroes, and they have 100 more health, and they typically have better DPS on their normal attacks. So I think this is a nice experiment. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit more ranged hero use rather than just everybody abusing Guardian of Nor and Occultist. We'll see how this goes. Royal Mage. Hailstorm damage increased from 8 to 12. And on level 2, it's 20 to 25. So that is a very significant increase, especially if you take into account scaling with Arcane Force and other items and absorb the elements and all those skills. But the chill duration has been increased as well from 1 to 2 seconds. What's going on here? Slow is the same as the Druid. Okay, so you're probably gonna cap out at like a 60% slow if you get everything. Like the Noria item from the creeps. Lots of requirements then. And it's not that impressive, you'll be able to split out, but it does damage if you sit in it. So that's a really good change, I think. Fighting Frost level 2, freeze duration reduced from 10 seconds to 5. Yeah, it's annoying to be frozen. Nobody likes to be unable to act. Fair enough. Xerax Champion reduced buff intensity from 40% to 33%. That's the ability that buffs damages around you but damages people. So that's probably a good thing. This should be level 2, I believe. Yeah, this is particularly wild if you can do it on hunters or even war trolls. War trolls combined with the Titan ability and this. Good luck stopping that. You'll really be needing that hard countering siege in that scenario. So this is probably a healthy change to compensate for that. Reduced area sizes from 30 to 26 on Nullify, and from 40 to 36 on level 1 and 2 respectively. Nullify is the hero killer. You just put a hero into your hunters and they die, with some few exceptions. I think this is okay, but it doesn't solve anything about that. So it still is going to be the hero killer. It's just going to be a little bit harder to hit, and it will pull fewer units. So maybe that's what it's trying to address, to pull like one less unit from a blob of archers or something like that. That it does get done, I think. Death resilience resistances changed from 10%, 20%, 30% to 7%, 13%, 20%. A significant reduction here, especially if you have some weakenings that you can apply to the occultist. He will really be feeling that. Goblin Warlock. Summon Golem, not available at level 5, used to be level 7, which means that the Warlock finally gets a level 5 timing. That is actually scary. The Golem has insane stats, and it had to be nerfed as well to make it reasonable. So 2500 health going down to 2000 for that thing, and 180 to 200 damage to a flat 175. Yeah, that's gonna be a scary, spooky timing. We're gonna try that, I'm sure. I'm very excited to try that one. Goblin sounds amazing. Chain Lightning level 2 damage has been buffed. It only used to buff the number of targets, but if it's the same amount of targets, it didn't do more damage. So this will help a little bit with scaling there. And explosive finale damage increased from 250 to 300. Yep, nobody picks that perk, but now it's gonna be a little bit better than the Kiss of Nor. So if you have sufficient damage buffs, maybe it's gonna be actually able to wipe out enemies. You can run this guy in the middle of a blob of archers and maybe blow them all up. So that should be actually pretty freaking sick. Elves. Ranger Howl level 2 now costs 10 focus. I don't know what the original was. I think it was 15. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody correct me. Anyway, Howl is the resistance reduction spell around the wolf or bear. Increased radius of effect by 20% to 120. So that's gonna basically be like Plague Field. Yeah, that's a pretty big increase there, and might be able to keep combining that with stuff like the explosion, the Martyrial Sacrifice, or just Hail of Arrows. Spectral Bear now has the big tag, so it will be able to push through your units rather than getting stuck behind your wardens that try to do a ranged attack. That's probably useful because he needs to be in the front line. Tanky Boy with powerful attacks should always be there. Moonveil changed to self-target area cast. The good quality of life change. Spectral Bear should be pretty good with Moonveil, as he will be gaining some cleave attacks with that. Especially now that he actually gets to be on the front lines. And the Archeroid's Psychokinetic Blast focus damage on level 2 increased to 10. I remember that was actually 2 damage before. 2 focus were removed from the target. That is nothing. If you have a mage hero with 3 points in deep waters, they have 70 focus. Removing 2 means nothing. Removing 10, they'll probably feel that. Dark Elves. Guardian of Nor Plague Field reduced weaken from 30 to 25. Yeah, a very oppressive spell. Absolutely, you just sacrifice one of your cheap units or even a Harvester, which is free. I mean, come on, this is a huge reduction and shouldn't be that strong. Especially considering the 120 range or whatever it has. You can weaken half an entire army. Soul Explosion. Reduce training distance from 50 to 40. So if you split up, it will be much easier to stop this from jumping from unit to unit. Very nice. Soul Transformation. Reduce teleport distance from 250 to 200. So it's going to be just about better than walking. If you want to keep jumping around. It's obviously still super useful for getting out of a fight. And super useful for getting into a fight. So Soul Transformation remains pretty strong, but a little bit worse. But to compensate, Soul Charge duration increased. Soul Charge will give you speed. So if you have an army advantage, you'll be able to just charge in the middle of them. Combine this with Spectres, and you should be able to chase down pretty much anything. I think a lot of the times when the Guardian of Nor and the blob of infiltrators that follow him, they're usually able to actually kill stuff, but people run away and then you break off. But with this, I think you'll be able to just dive in and actually manage that killing blow. High Hierophant. Barrage, number of projectiles reduced from 5 to 4. Obviously a very powerful spell, but I'm not convinced it's actually that powerful to be demanding a reduction like this. But with Dwarf power levels increasing for tier 2, maybe it's okay. It does get a compensation here with increased projectile damage, so you know, that helps a little bit. It's probably not that bad. It should still be okay. The 5th projectile doesn't always hit stuff anyway, so hopefully it won't be too extreme. Reduce time to hit for the Warrior of Death. Reduce the time to hit from 0.9 to 0.67. Make it easier to damage kiting enemies, but the attack frequency and thus the DPS stays the same. So yeah, you can definitely kite away from this guy and make him have to restart attacks if his attack just wouldn't work. A must fix. So it's good that this is included. Warrior of the Depths, reworked Relentless Rage. That's the perk on the top left. For each successive attack, it used to give only focus, like 6 points of past and focus. like he could ever need that. For each successive attack on the same target, the Warrior of the Depths grants a 10% attack damage and speed to himself up to 100%. Remove level 2 and 3? No, that used to have 6 levels. So yeah, 1 point, you put this in, and your normal attacks are gonna go bonkers, and it's going to scale with your ultimate on the right side, which I forget the name of all of a sudden. Yeah, but that also increases your attack speed, so he's gonna be a quick boy. Warrior of the Depths. Reworked Precision. Grants focus, 1 focus on each hit. That's what I used to do. Add plus and total focus. That's the new effect. Remove level 2 and 3. So yeah, that's also probably worthwhile as a pickup in the later phases of the game, where you're a little bit focus starved, but you know, maybe it's better than pumping points into concentration, especially if you have attack speed improvements. Maybe you don't even need cooldown reductions anymore. You just keep going with this. That could be pretty good. That could be pretty... You could actually farm a lot of focus if you keep attacking with normal attacks, and I'm pretty sure you can squeeze in like 1 ability between your normal attacks, and this Relentless Rage would still work. So build variety for the Warrior of the Depths, and it's not over. We're still going. Starward Song now is an aura that reserves 10 focus. Every 10 seconds, the Warrior of the Depths applies a shield worth 100 health to allied units around him. Level 2 also applies a regeneration for 5 seconds. So this used to be a single cast. I'm gonna put down an area around me, and if people happen to be in it, then they get the 100 health, and it would disappear very quickly. But now, if your axe wielders and whatever follow him around, they'll keep getting reapplied 100 health, so this is significantly stronger. And having regeneration for 5 seconds is also pretty sweet. Don't know the number though. We'll see. Warrior of the Depths, reworked Death Blow. Regenerates 100, 150, or 200 health on quick kill. I assume that's levels 1, 2, and 3. Cooldown of 10 seconds. So your work or harassment is gonna be pretty sweet. And if this scales, then maybe even the late game, you know, keeping him alive thing is gonna be also pretty decent, but sounds like a heavy investment in points. I think that's something you get rid of after the worker harassment stage, but it's a nice little bonus there. Wonder if it's worth it. Alright, Plaguebringer, Plague Bolt, disease duration increased from 2 to 5 seconds. Plague Bolt's disease is just, it always was pretty useless. Couldn't do anything with it, but 5 seconds you can combo. Maybe even make like the Plague Orb better with that. Like if you have disease 2 from your actual disease AoE, and then you use Plague Bolt to apply the level 1 plague, then both plague levels are applied, and the projectile hitting the one target that you mark for that is gonna do a lot more damage than normally, so that should be pretty sweet. Plague Bolt disease cooldown reduced from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. No, that must be the spell that has 10 seconds cooldown. So you can spam this a little bit more often now. Plague Orb now consumes disease 1 and 2 on hit. So you're gonna be wanting to hit it towards the end of the disease effect. Of course, that gives people time for counterplay, which is great, I believe. You shouldn't be able to just yeetus, deletus armies with 2 clicks. Especially considering that Plague of application is only 5 focus. Like, come on. Alright, disease cooldown increased from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, so you won't be able to do it as often. Wait, that's not... I believe that's actually an issue with the patch notes. So I think what happened is what I read on Discord, is that the actual disease is 10 seconds of cooldown. It used to be originally 5, and this is a mix-up, right? I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. The patch notes need a patch too. A small one at least. Increased undead troll limit from 2 to 4. That is actually huge, because that little skill used to be essentially useless, but if you can have 4 zombie trolls, that should be pretty good actually. Those aren't half bad. Obviously, only having 1 or 2 of them, that is pretty meaningless. Summon Undead Troll, reduce cooldown from 60 seconds to 40 seconds, so just helps you get to the limit. Maybe it's meaningful, I don't know yet. Tiring Attack, reverted to a small area of effect radius. So when this was reverted, the Plaguebringer was completely busted, but with all these changes, I think it might be okay to bring this back. I'm not too opposed to it. It's gonna be still a little bit dangerous, but the overall DPS that you can crank out of this guy has been drastically reduced, right? Plague is just a lot less frequent this way. So yeah, huge patch. Chieftain Stomp increased damage from 40 to 70. Maybe we will see Stomp and right side builds again with the Chieftain. Very interesting. So yeah, that is gonna be it for the patch. I'll be uploading for YouTube several games played on the patch. And obviously, eventually it will go live anyway, so that's the only thing I will upload then. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, YouTube. And if you're on Twitch, then we're moving on. If you're on YouTube, you should be on Twitch. Plug, plug, wink, wink.